Hey everybody, welcome back. Today is day 3 of the chronic pain solution, and we are going to be diving into our emotions, emotional awareness, and our pain levels. So this is a topic that typically surprises people, but it can be incredibly empowering once we start to understand it. And that's how our emotions, our thoughts, and our beliefs really influence our pain. Let me start by reminding you again. I am not saying your pain is made up. It is not psychosomatic. It is not all in your head. Your pain is very real. You're feeling it in wherever you're saying you're feeling it. It's incredibly distressing, incredibly frustrating. And I know you are doing your best to get rid of it. But that's why we're exploring this fascinating role that our nervous system plays in our pain and how emotions and stress and thought patterns can really influence our pain, right? Okay. One of the coolest bits of research that I have ever come across has to do with functional MRIs of the brain, right? So, what they did was they took people with chronic pain, depression, anxiety, and addiction, and they ran them all through this functional MRI machine and took scans of their brain. Okay. Now, the finding was insane to me. It and the finding was that all 4 of these different types of, let's call them afflictions, again, chronic pain, depression, anxiety, and addiction, their brains looked the same. You could not tell the difference between any of these brains. And that doesn't mean you're anxious, it doesn't mean you're depressed, it doesn't mean that you're addicted to anything, but your brain in pain processes the same as those other conditions. It's not just a tissue state, right? It's not just a physical signal. It's processed through your entire nervous system, which is always paying attention to everything. And that includes your emotional and mental states. And that's why understanding how emotions can affect your pain helps us to reduce it, right? So let's think of your nervous system as a cup. Every stressor, physical, emotional, mental, environmental, fills up your cup. Now, pain happens when the cup is overflowing, right? Any kind of pain happens when the cup is overflowing. So even a small amount of the tiniest of stressors can tip it over and make it feel worse. But here's the good news. By managing these stressors and calming our nervous system, learning new strategies, figuring out how to reduce your full cup, figuring out how to build a bigger cup for the things that we cannot get rid of, it doesn't take the pain away completely for everyone. For some people, it does. Do we know who that's going to work for and who it's not? No, no, we do not. But for many, 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 many people that go through my Moving Beyond Pain program, once they hit the emotional piece and they start to figure out their emotional stressors and their emotional loads, and they begin to adjust how they manage those, their pain does get markedly better, for like to the point where they go from being in bed all the time to, over the course of 6, 12, 18 months, to being able to go back to work at a full-time job. Okay. So while managing these things does not guarantee that we're going to make a complete and full recovery, it it sure as heck helps more than anything I've ever seen, right? So where your thoughts go, your nervous system follows, right? As I said, the nervous system is always listening. And if you are constantly focused on your pain or thinking about your pain or thinking about how you're going to get out of pain or how it's never going to get better or how awful life is because of your pain, your nervous system is seeing that as a threat, and it is always going to be at high alert. It's always going to give more weight to everything that's happening to you, and it's going to intensify and amplify your pain. Now, that doesn't mean just ignore it. right? It doesn't mean just pretend like your pain doesn't exist, because that doesn't really tend to work either, because our brains are very smart and they know that we're lying because we can feel it. We can feel the pain, right? But when we begin to redirect our focus and start to calm our thoughts, calm our nervous system, calm our world, um, we begin to change our relationship with pain and this alarm system. So, something that we can do when we start to recognize those thoughts, right? Like, this is horrible, it's awful, it's never going to get better. When I hear myself say never, I know that that's a problem. I know that that's not realistic, and it like snaps me back. And I'm like, okay, right now, this pain is awful. Or right now, this really sucks. So I'm going to take a breath. I'm going to do a body scan, and I'm going to look for something that doesn't hurt, because I'm having trouble believing that there's any part of my body that doesn't hurt right now. So I'm going to do a body scan, and I'm going to find something that doesn't hurt, and I'm going to redirect my attention to that non-painful body part. This is an incredibly powerful first step towards retraining your body and your brain to interpret pain differently, to see it differently, right? So, a word that gets thrown around a lot in research is not a word that I love, but we're going to have to use it because we're talking about research, we're talking about pain, and we need to talk about it like the people that are studying it talk about it. Okay. So, there is a word that is commonly used called catastrophization, and it basically means expecting the worst or taking things, the solid, it's never going to get better, it's always going to hurt, everything hurts, right? These absolute statements. It's when we expect a worst case scenario, like this flare is going to ruin my week. This pain means I'll never get better. I've tried everything and nothing helps. Research shows that thinking like this, catastrophizing, increase our suffering and keep our nervous system in overdrive. It keeps the pain coming. Now, I would like to offer, because I think it's really important to think about this, but a lot of things that are considered catastrophizing are also just common pain related worry. They're things that we as people experiencing pain recognize are real. I could lose my job. I don't know where my insurance is going to come from, right? Like, I've tried everything and I don't really know that anything's going to make it better. Those are very real thoughts. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't think them, but I am saying that we know thoughts like that, no matter how real they are, keep us in a state of fight or flight. They keep our nervous system ramped up, and we do need to deal with them. So studies show that reducing catastrophization also reduces our suffering. And suffering is really what's stealing so much life from us. So tools like reframing, like saying this flare is tough, but I know that I can get through it. They've ended before, and this one will end again, can really help calm or bring down the excitability of your nervous system so it stops paying attention to absolutely everything. If you've ever done any counseling, things like acceptance and commitment therapy or dialectical behavioral therapy under the umbrella of cognitive behavioral therapy can be very useful. I do want to acknowledge that CBT and people with childhood traumas or a lot of big T trauma in their life is often not as helpful. I would prefer an ACT approach or a DBT approach where we recognize that trauma is not, like, the response to our trauma isn't just like a bad way of thinking that's hurting us, right? The things that we think and the way that we have gotten where we are has helped us survive those traumas. And now we just need to add more ways, right? And that's more like ACT and DBT. But all of those methods will help you acknowledge tough emotions without letting the emotion control your experience. And that's really important. So how do we regulate our emotions, right? How do we reduce stress on the nervous system? Well, one of the quickest ways to hack fight or flight is through slow breathing, because There's no panicked situation in which we are taking full deep belly breaths, right? So deep, slow breathing is a signal to the nervous system that you are safe. It is not because there's any magical, mystical properties of deep breathing or mindfulness exercises. It is simply a way to reaffirm to your nervous system that you are safe. And one of my favorite examples of this is escape artists, right? These people put themselves in very, very dangerous situations, and they have to keep their breath under control so that their adrenaline doesn't spike and they don't lose like use of their prefrontal cortex. That's your decision making part of your brain. Um, so that they can get out of these situations in the time that they've set, right? So they utilize deep breathing to keep their nervous systems calm to do these amazing escape acts, right? The second practical strategy is reframing negative thoughts, challenging it, asking yourself, is there another outcome? Is there another way I can look at this? Three, not four, three is naming your emotions. By simply saying, I feel frustrated by my pain today, that can actually help reduce the intensity of the pain that you're feeling. And the last one probably seems a little annoying to most, but the fourth is gratitude practice. Focus on something that you are grateful for and redirect your attention towards that. We can change our focus and the excitability of our nervous system through these things, which in turn will, over time, lower your experience of pain. They're not magic fixes, but they do help empty the cup a little bit, which gives your nervous system a chance to breathe. And that's what we're looking for, okay? In today's homework, we're going to take a moment to reflect on a time that you felt overwhelmed and write about what was happening. Your thoughts, maybe where they came from, maybe trace them back a bit, and ask yourself, how might I respond to this differently next time? It's a starting point for the mind-body connection. And you'll see patterns and you'll find areas where you can make small changes, but they make big impact on your pain. Remember, your emotions and your thoughts aren't just noise. They are part of your pain experience. They have chemical signatures that come with them. They're intertwined with our nervous system, and they are something that we can work on that makes an enormous change in our experience with our chronic pain. I hope that you're finding these concepts helpful. And if you want a structured way to explore them, my 6-month program, Moving Beyond Pain, is really the best way to do that. It offers in-depth guidance, practical tools, lots more videos like this, and it helps us to reshape our responses to pain and reduce the pain intensity. So let's keep this conversation going in the Facebook group. Share the insights that you gained today and make what connections did you make between your emotions and your pain? I really can't wait to hear your thoughts. Head on to the next video for more clarity on that homework assignment. I'll see you there and see you tomorrow.